Hi there. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to ask you an important question. Are you wondering why your hard work isn't reflecting in your bank account? If so, I've got something that could change the game for you. With my Digital Product Accelerator one-on-one coaching program, I'm on a mission to help entrepreneurs like you bank consistent revenue without sacrificing your time or sanity. Imagine shifting from 90% client-facing work to enjoying consistent revenue from your digital products, all while reclaiming your time. You already know that you don't need another course, and a one-size-fits-all approach isn't going to cut it. What you need is a strategic, long-term plan tailored just for you. So if you're ready to build the profitable, freedom-giving business you've dreamed of, apply to work with me by going to destinycop.com/apply. I cannot wait to learn more about you and your business. Welcome to the Course Creators MBA podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Destiny Kopp, and I help business owners increase their revenue with digital products and automated sales funnels. In this podcast, we tell the stories of ordinary business owners just like you. We talk about their story and how they got started, the challenges they've experienced, and how they overcame them. These are discussions with real people who understand what it's like to own an online course or membership business. Before we begin our show today, I want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by our flagship Course in a Box program, which helps you create your revenue-generating course in less than a week. Course in a Box is available on AppSumo at a special deal, and you can learn more about Course in a Box by visiting the link in the show notes. Let's jump right into our show. And today I have a special guest. I have Alexis Haselberger. She is a time management and productivity coach who helps people do more and stress less through coaching, workshops, and online courses. Her pragmatic yet fun approach helps people easily integrate practical, realistic strategies into their lives so that they can do more of what they want and less of what they don't. Alexis has taught thousands of individuals to take control of their time, and her clients include Google, Lyft, Workday, Capital One, Upwork, and more. Alexis, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited about our conversation here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about it too.
So why don't you take a few minutes and walk the audience through your entrepreneur journey and how you got to where you are today?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So yeah, I'm going to go way back because I think that, sometimes we don't know how we got where we are. And then we look back and we see the threads that go all the way to childhood, right? And so for me, I think, when it comes to time management and productivity, I was always just a very highly focused on ROI of my time kid. So I was a kid who was always kind of breaking out, as an 8-year-old, I'd be breaking out the graph paper to make myself a weekly schedule. I'd be cross-referencing it with the TV guide so that I could make sure to get my best half hour of TV that I was allowed to have in there. I was always trying to figure out how can I make straight A's and also go to class as little as possible, so always trying to figure out how can I get the best use of my time. And, fast forward, so went to college, all that fun stuff. And then I worked for about 15 years in tech startups in the Bay Area. And I worked doing a lot of basically everything that wasn't sales and engineering in a startup. So that's everything from facilities, HR, operations, legal, finance, dealing with all of that stuff. And what I found in those really fast-paced startups was that people worked really long hours and they burnt out. And that was not something that was okay with me. I never wanted to work long hours. One of the pieces of advice my mom gave me was never work more than 40 hours a week because then they will expect it. And I really took that to heart. And so, going through working in these companies and then having a couple of kids of my own, I was always trying to figure out how do I streamline things so that I can make the best use of my time. And then people started coming to me asking for that type of advice. So, I started to be asked to do productivity workshops, the companies that I was working at, and people were asking me to set up task systems and help people to manage, their workloads. And eventually, when the last startup that I worked for went out of business, as many startups do, I realized that this area of time management and productivity, this was the piece that was most interesting to me. Like, I geek out about all this stuff. And also, it seemed to be the most helpful and impactful for the people that I'd been working with and around. And so I just decided to see if I could somehow make a business out of that, about doing the thing that I loved, that came easy to me, but that seemed to be hard for other people.
So I have to let you in on a little bit of secret.
Yeah.
This is like my, I don't know, secret passion, if you would.
Oh, yeah.
So I love everything related to time management and productivity. So I definitely want to learn more. So you were at the startups, you said, for about 15 years, and people at these startups started asking you to do like these productivity shops and workshops, and started really just asking you about, I guess, how you were so good at some of this. When did you actually move into entrepreneurship? And tell us a little bit more about that transition process.
Yeah. So the last company that I worked for, it went out of business. And I basically, I mean, this is so ridiculous to say, but basically I just couldn't imagine having to go prove myself to someone else again. I had worked for the same CEO at two different companies. He brought me with him over the last 10 years, and I had built up a lot of autonomy. And, I felt like I did have a boss, but it didn't feel like I had a boss, right? I was able to do what I needed to do and kind of make my own decisions and all of that. And so when that company went out of business, the prospect of just like going to apply for another job seemed so distasteful to me that I was like, okay, what can I do? I guess I'll just start a business. And so that is literally what I did. I was like, I'll just see if I can make this work. And I told myself, I'm going to give it a shot for 18 months. And if I can make decent money in 18 months, then I will keep going. And if I cannot make any money in 18 months, then living off the money that I had, right? If I can't make any more money, then I'll just go back and I'll find another job and I'll know this wasn't for me. And the reality was that I got a client pretty quickly, and that I was, by the end of the first year that I was in business, I'd replaced the salary that I was working for other people. And so it's only gone up from there. And so that transition for me, I really had no idea. I was like, I'm going to start a business, but I had no idea how or what I would do. And so the first thing I did was just get a website domain, right? I got a domain, alexishaselberger.com. And because I didn't have any creative ideas about what to name this business. And I built a website on Squarespace in under a day, just, using their templates and tools. And then I was like, okay, that's legitimate. Like, I have a website here. And then I started trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do. And I knew I wanted it to be around time management and productivity, but I didn't really know in what format or how that could work. And so for about a month, I just started writing best practice documents. Like, I just started writing, okay, what do I know? What are all the things I know? And I just started writing these documents. So I had a document about focus, and a document about a task system, and a document about how to prepare for and return from vacation, and a document about just all the things I knew about time management, how to be efficient. And eventually I had a whole bunch of this stuff. And then I started putting it together in groups. I started saying okay, some of this stuff is related to each other. And when I looked at it, I said, you know what? I think I have a program here. I think I have I have modules. And so then I decided I would do coaching, and I would say, okay, well, I'm going to just teach people the things that I know. And so that's how I started.
So you mentioned that in the first year you had replaced your salary. Did you start working one-on-one with clients, or tell us a little bit about what you were doing? Were you going to like Google and Lyft and Workday and doing workshops for them? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So yeah, I was doing both workshops and one-on-one coaching. And really what I did to get started was I emailed every single person that I knew, like every single person, every email address I had. I think it was like 800 people. And I emailed them all started with a template, but I customized it, just to be a little bit nicer to each person. But basically I just said, hey, I started this business. Here's what I'm doing. Here are the people who I like to work with. Here's how I can help them. If you know anybody, let me know, right? Or if you think I could help you, let me know. And that's actually how I got, my first few clients, was just through that outreach. And it was incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, I emailed people I hadn't talked to since high school. I emailed the insurance agent of a job I had 4 years ago, like 4 jobs ago. Like I just emailed everybody whose email address I had. And then I also reached out to everybody that I was connected to on LinkedIn. And that's how I got started. And then once you do good work, then people start referring you to other people.
I love that. So I'm thinking about my kind of, not my business work emails that I have for my business, but kind of my personal ones. I think I got emails in there from, I don't know, people on my baseball team, my kids' baseball team, like 10 years ago.
Right.
Was that the kind of people you were emailing?
Yeah. I downloaded all the emails from all of the email accounts that I had, right? And I emailed all of them. So it was parents of kids kids went to preschool with, right? It was literally every single person that I had their email address.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about your first clients. I know you've had some big names that you've done work for. Did you find them through this outreach, or how did you find them?
Well, my very first client, I think I was just really lucky. My very first client found me through LinkedIn. So, he was worked in engineering at Google, and he found me on LinkedIn. I guess he was looking for a time management or a productivity coach. And we had, I remember being so nervous because it was my first sales call ever. And he decided that he wanted to work with me. And that turned out to be just incredibly fruitful, because he had such huge transformation in his stress levels and his work, that he just started referring me to so many other people. And so that's how, with Google, that's how I ended up having lots and lots of Google clients, and then eventually did some workshops for Google for the wider teams.
So tell me this, how long have you been in business? So from the time you kind of got your first client and you were that first year out where you replaced your salary till now, how long has that been?
Just about 3.5 years. So it's really not been that long. Yeah.
It hasn't been that long. Not at
No.
all.
Yeah.
So now and you're here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about your online courses. At what point did you decide, I should take some of this knowledge and put it in an online course, or were your clients asking for it? Kind of walk us through that process and what made you go down the path of, creating an online course.
Yeah. So it's funny. It was actually very happenstance for me. Through LinkedIn. So my courses are on Udemy right now. And through LinkedIn, someone from Udemy reached out to me. It was kind of the end of my first year in business, and said, hey, we don't have a great time management course for our business product. Is this something you would be interested in doing? And I think, that first year of business, you just say yes to everything, right? Like every opportunity. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I will do this. This sounds great. And so it really was something that I didn't think of on my own. But once it got brought to my attention, I thought, oh, that's a really interesting idea. A way to make some passive income, a way to have a product out there that's like less expensive than working with me one-on-one. And so it really came from Udemy themselves, who had reached out to me saying that they needed something and they saw my expertise there. And so I really have to give the credit to them, because I think my business would not have turned in this direction if they hadn't have reached out in the first place.
So and I may have missed it, but how did they find you?
On LinkedIn. They just reached out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That goes to show you how important LinkedIn profiles are.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for a lot of people, no matter what you're doing, whether you're just freelancing or, in any type of work like that. So LinkedIn profiles, you don't necessarily have to be posting on LinkedIn, but the profiles are so important.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk us through a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about your courses. And I know you mentioned, before we started recording that you're in the middle of, I believe you said launching another one or creating another one. So tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so I have two courses right now. The first one is the first one that I created when Udemy had reached out, and this one's called Time Management Mastery: Do More, Stress Less. And this one is it's kind of gives you the foundation that you need to be properly managing time and task management. And it really goes into a big thing for me in my business is, let's not try to shove ourselves in a box. Let's learn a little bit about ourselves and then figure out which strategies are we going to use that are going to help support who we are already, and to do things based on who we are already, instead of trying to say, just, go read this book and do it exactly this way. And so this course really helps you to identify different traits and tendencies you might have, and then try to customize the strategies that you're using to that. It also really helps with prioritization and how do we say no? And yet, what do we say yes to? And how do we say no to the right things too? Because I find that people are really often overcommitted, and that's a huge source of overwhelm and stress, but it feels scary to say no. And so that course really is kind of a fundamentals course. And then I have another course that I actually created at the beginning of the pandemic. And this one is about how to work from home without losing your mind, basically. And so this one came out of a direct need from many of my clients. Actually, one of my clients at Google had said, you're teaching me all this stuff. I need you to create a workshop to teach my team all this stuff. And so I created a workshop and did that, for a bunch of different teams. And out of that, I created another online course that really covers how do we stay connected to people? How do we stay, in focus? How do we regain control and calm and all of that when we're thrust into a situation like working from home with our kids there and all these other different types of things? So those are the two courses that I have available right now. And then I am in the middle of translating my my coaching program, which I do both individually and for groups. I'm translating that into a really robust online course that I'm going to be selling myself, probably launching in the beginning of next year. And I'm really at the point where I'm trying to reduce a lot of the one-on-one work that I have, because I have a lot of clients, but it takes up a lot of time, and shifting more of that onto a self-serve model for my clients.
So I love all of these. So the one that you talk about, do more, stress less, and say no. You mentioned that a lot of us are overcommitted. I think a lot of people, listening to this can relate to that. Also, the one on how to work from home without losing your mind. Was that partly coming out as a result of COVID, where everybody were having to work from home and they didn't really want to, and they were coming to you and asking you how do they solve for this?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I released that very early I think I released that in maybe April of last year, just as a direct result of what are all the things that I'm seeing with my clients, what are their needs, and because I had specific clients asking me to produce content in those areas. And I had actually worked from home for about 7 years before that anyways. And so I'd led teams from home, and I had worked from home for the most part. And so I had developed a lot of good strategies around that anyways. And so it was just a natural extension of the work that I was doing with people, because, people are having productivity issues, they're having time issues, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed. And now we throw, no boundaries, right? All our boundaries got obliterated. And we're now dealing with, 4 Zoom calls going on in the house all at the same time, and trying to manage kids homeschooling at the same time as we're trying to be on our work meetings and all of that. And it really brought people to a breaking point. And so that's why I produced that.
And I think a lot of people too can relate to what you're doing with your kind of your robust or signature course, whatever you're going to call it, where you're, putting it together to kind of reduce your one-on-one work and to give your business an opportunity to scale. So Alexis, let me ask you this. What do you see as next steps in your business?
So right now in my business, I am actively saying no to things that do not fit within kind of what I want to do to scale, right? So I am turning down some work that I might have definitely said yes to in my first year or two of business, so that I have more time to really put the effort into translating my coaching program into this course. And so my goal is that right now I think I'm probably 80% one-on-one and group work and 20%, course wise in terms of revenue. And I would really like to flip that. Right. So I don't want to get rid of the one-on-one work and I don't want to get rid of the workshops, but I'd really like to have the bulk of my revenue coming from courses instead of the flip side.
I love that. I love that. And I think a lot of people listening to this podcast episode can relate to that. Is, that's one of the benefits that online courses give us. It allows us to kind of, not necessarily completely move away from that one-on-one work, but move more of it to online courses to give us, more time to do what we enjoy. So
Right.
Closing question for you is, what advice do you have for other online course creators or entrepreneurs out there? You've been doing this for, I think it was around 3.5 years. You've accomplished a lot, quite frankly, in 3.5 years. What advice do you have for others who may just be getting started into all this?
I think that my best advice is just don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and just put stuff out into the world. I think that a lot of times we want things to be perfect or really good or all of these things before we put it out there. And the reality is, like, at the very beginning, nobody's watching anyways. So it doesn't matter if you make big mistakes or you fail or whatever, right? It's the best time to be trying things out because literally nobody's watching. And also that's how you get better. It's like, I look at things that I put out into the world a couple years ago that I thought were good at the time. And I look back at them and I'm like, oh, like I see so many places where this could be improved. Right. But I think that's necessary, because if we wait until something's good enough, then we never get the feedback from people about how to make it better.
I love that. And as you were saying that about, the stuff you had put out in the early days, I think about some of the early podcast episodes I did. I'm like, oh, I won't even go back and listen to them now. It's that bad.
Right.
It's literally that bad. But you get better over time as you do it more and more. So Alexis, where can people find you if they want to learn more about, time management, productivity, which I know a lot of people are interested in?
Yeah, so the best places to find me are on my website. It's alexishaselberger.com. And I hope you'll put that in the show notes because that's a mouthful and I don't know that anyone will be able to spell it.
I definitely will. So they'll have the link.
And then, they can find me on Instagram at do.more.stress.less, on Facebook at do more stress less. And I have a YouTube channel as well, and I can send you the link to that to throw in the show notes. But I produce weekly content that for free, so anyone can sign up for my weekly newsletter where I send out free tips every week, and I put a YouTube video up there of the similar content every week so that people can have access to that.
Perfect. And we will make sure that those links are in the show notes so people can learn some time management and productivity tips from you. Alexis, thank you so much for joining me. I loved chatting with you and hearing about your story and everything that you've accomplished in the past few years in your business. And I wish you the best in launching your signature program.
Well, thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure to chat with you today. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you love the show, we'd appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform and show us some love there. Have a great rest of your day and bye for now.